ESPN 1080 The Team Insider Special here as we preview the big fight, of course. Manny Pacquiao in the ring. Eric Lopez here alongside our boxing guru, Jarrod Rudolph from Real GM. And Jarrod, while the basketball, they fight over their dollars, we got boxing to figure out this weekend.
I'm just happy that I've been upgraded to guru status.
You are a guru, my friend. You know your knowledge well. We're going to break down the fight this weekend, the third installment for Mr. Pacquiao this week. Tell the audience about his opponent.
Well, Juan Manuel Marquez,
yeah,
handles him well, in my opinion. He won those first two fights. Clearly won those first two fights. Great counterpuncher, warrior, won't go down without a fight. And I think that Manny Pacquiao has made a tremendous mistake getting in the ring with this guy, risking the Floyd Mayweather fight, because I think that Marquez is going to beat him.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. We'll break that fight down. We'll talk about, of course, the legendary Joe Frazier, and, of course, Floyd Mayweather news and Bob Arum in the news. I'll get Jarrod's thoughts on that. Let's get into it, though. You mentioned it. Pacquiao, why do you think this is a mistake?
Because he fights him too well. You understand? And when you get a guy that just has your number and you're fighting, you get the victory, it's not the most manly thing to do, but sometimes it's just best to steer away, especially when you're looking in the face of the biggest payday in the history of boxing. Maybe two, if you can, put together a fight with Floyd that is worthy of a second bout. Why risk that with a guy that fights you well? And again, in my opinion, in the opinion of many boxing fans out there, beat you twice.
Give the audience, for a chance to maybe have missed it, recap the first two fights with these two guys.
Well, the first fight, what happens is it was a draw, but Marquez was down 3 times in the first round, and he comes back and he fights a masterful fight. See, what he has going for him is that he's a good counterpuncher. And with Manny Pacquiao, and this is what I've been telling you guys for a while, he's not a defensive fighter. He's a firehouse offensive guy. He comes straight forward. But how do you beat a guy like that? Simple. You turn him into a defender. And Marquez can put him in a position where his offense opens Marquez up for different opportunities, and that's not what Manny Pacquiao does. He's not a defensive fighter. He needs to come straight forward. This guy just fights him too well. And I know they're thinking, he's been in some wars, it's been some time, Manny's a different fighter, and Juan Manuel is 37 now. But I'm telling you right now, when you got a guy like Marquez, very proud fighter, okay, that's come up, he's adjusted to the welterweight, feeling now, and he feels as if he's been robbed twice and he has something to prove, that's not a guy you want to be in there with, okay? This is not your Ricky Hatton, or this is not, Antonio Margarito. This guy can fight. This guy fights you well, and this guy feels like he's been robbed, and he has something to prove for the first two fights. And this is a mistake. I really think that even if Manny Pacquiao wins this fight, that the punishment that he may take even takes away from him going into a fight with Floyd. It's just a bad matchup.
Tell the audience Marquez's resume. I mean, it's a pretty good resume. Just kind of break down what kind of fighter here Manny's going to be dealing with from a standpoint of a legacy standpoint here.
You're dealing with the all-time great. I mean, you're dealing with
Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, maybe, or does he need this fight to upset? Maybe an upset over Pacquiao gets him in. Where do you rank him?
I don't think that one fight gets you into the Hall of Fame. I think that he's a great fighter.
Yeah,
I think that he's done a solid job. With opponents outside of Floyd, I don't remember anyone wiping this guy out. I think in terms of Manny Pacquiao, doesn't really matter what he's done prior or what he's going to do after Pacquiao, because he fights Pacquiao well, and this is the fight that you have to worry about. What he's done previous against other opponents, what he's going to do after he's done, doesn't matter. What matters is he fights Manny better than anyone that Manny has run up against. Better than anyone. He just knows him. And you get, in all sports, you just run into opponents that sometimes they just have your number. That doesn't mean that you're sunk before you go in there. It just means that they have your number, they fight you well. This is a dangerous fight for Manny Pacquiao because this guy's not flat-footed. This guy can take a punch. This guy can give a punch. This guy's not going to lay down. He's very, very proud. He feels like he has something to prove. This is a dangerous fight. If you're going to take a risk and you're going to take this type of fight, you do it with Floyd and you get 60 to 70 million. And then you come back and see Marquez because that fight's going to be there. You don't take this before the Floyd
If you're
fight.
Manny Pacquiao's camp, then who made this decision? Why did they do this fight?
Bob Arum made the decision because it's an old trick in boxing. I'm going to use Floyd to promote my fights and not ever get Manny in the ring with Floyd. So each fight is a prelude to what's going to be the biggest fight in the history of boxing. But that biggest fight in the history of boxing is not coming. But the more you put it off, the juicier it gets, and it gets juicy and juicy and juicy. And now Floyd has a date set in May, so it's even juicier if Manny can get past Marquez on Saturday night. So juicy that now you can say, you know what, we're going to charge $100 for that pay-per-view, and everyone's going to pay it. No one's going to say, you know what, I'm not going to pay. That's too much. People say, I've been wanting to see this fight so long. Manny looked great against Marquez. He's a different fighter because he was able to come in, knock Marquez out, or beat Marquez after Marquez fought him twice. Great. Again, I think he won the fights. So it's old trick in boxing. We're going to use the fight that everyone wants to promote the fight that's right in front of us, giving people that glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we'll get that mega fight. And I don't think it'll happen. I hope it happens. But Bob Arum's a smart businessman, but he knows that they want no parts of Pacquiao, Mayweather, until they get as much money as they can out of Pacquiao.
Now, you mentioned Bob Arum and Mayweather. They had a little bit of a sparring session verbally. Mayweather talked about the Cinco de Mayo fight in 2012 with Pacquiao. Arum kind of took some shots, said he was very classless. Well, give me your take on that whole little rumble. Is that just a way to promote the fight? Is Mayweather maybe said that on purpose to get into Pacquiao's head? What's all that about?
No, Mayweather's a businessman, and he's making it known that he has a date, he has a venue set. Now, that doesn't mean anything. You know, you put a reservation on a venue, that can be changed, that can be moved. You're just saying, okay, May 5th, I'm going to fight. I'm putting it on hold. You know, we'll see what happens. Because, again, you can't make a fight with Pacquiao if Pacquiao loses to Marquez on Saturday. In fact, Arum has a $10 million guarantee for an immediate rematch in the event that Marquez does win. And that tells you in itself that, it's a little bit of doubt here. And nobody wants to see these guys fight 4 times. As great as the first two were, that's not what you do in boxing. You don't fight 4 and 5 times. This isn't the NBA or the NFL. You fight 3 times, a trilogy. Right. Best of whoever gets the best of it, you move on. So I don't think that. I mean, in fact, I don't even remember Floyd saying anything that struck me, oddly at all. He reserved a date. Everyone wants to see this fight. Everyone suggested that Floyd was going towards this fight. That's why he fought a powerful left-handed fighter, Victor Ortiz. So what's the surprise here that Floyd has set a date and said, okay, I got the date. You guys do take care of your business, and we can get it on.
Now, with that in mind, Juan Manuel, does he have to win this via knockout? Because maybe the judges favor Pacquiao here with a lot at stake here? Is that a concern?
To the casual boxing fan, yes. To the educated boxing fan, yes. But I'm going to give the judges the benefit of the doubt. Okay, I'm going to give the judges the benefit of the doubt because something like that is already out there. And I really think that Marquez will do enough to win the fight, but you never know. I mean, it's Vegas, it's fight. Everyone knows what this Mayweather-Pacquiao fight is going to bring in. So you never know, but I would hate to put that indictment on boxing before it even happens. So I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I think Marquez and Pacquiao go out there, they fight their hearts out, and I think that Marquez is the better fighter that night.
Now, we'll go through the keys of this fight as we move on this, but let's hit up a couple other boxing topics. Last time we had you on, Jarrod, of course, Floyd Mayweather. He won his fight, of course, a little controversial with the way it ended, with the kissing there and the push, and whether he should have punched him even though he's defenseless. Give me your thoughts. Put a final wrap on the last Mayweather fight.
You protect yourself at all times. Floyd was winning the fight easily through 3. I think Ortiz quit. Yep. And, at the end of the day, look, what Floyd did, he got the knockout at a discount. I mean, you would like to see he didn't need to do what he did. But it was totally within the rules. I don't think it was cheap, but again, at a discount. Ortiz initiated the dirty play with the headbutts, and it wasn't the first headbutt. I mean, he was butting him throughout the fight, but that was blatant. He launched himself into him. But look, Cortez called time in. He did look over at the timekeeper to make sure the time was going. They touched gloves. Ortiz took a step back. Hook right hand. That's all she wrote. I'm not going to get mad at Floyd for... just protect yourself at all times. He did what he needed to do. But, when you talk about even if Floyd decided to go dirty, hit him with an elbow, go low, Ortiz initiated that. And, you can't do that. This is a contact sport. If you're in the fight anyway, so if you don't like something that's going on, you have every opportunity to go in there and handle it with your hands. Ortiz was outclassed. He knew he was outclassed. He knew he was on his way out. Floyd was handling him. He quit.
What's next for Ortiz?
I'm hearing Berto. I think it's a mistake for him to take the Berto fight right away. In boxing's a cruel sport, and if you lose 2 in a row, regardless of how you look in those 2 fights, your value diminishes very, very quickly. I think that, with him taking the Berto fight so quickly,
that'd be the second time they fight.
That'd be the second fight, but it's coming off a loss to Floyd. Get yourself a win, get your confidence back up, then fight Berto. I think that Berto shouldn't have relinquished the title. If you have a championship and you can find a way to make the fight for the title, you only increase the value of the fight. But I think it's a mistake for him to go back in there against Berto. But you know what? Tip your hat to a guy. At least he's not ducking and dodging anybody. And, Berto wants to fight. So I think that's what you see Ortiz doing next. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a bit too early. I think he needs to get one under his belt first and then go in there against Berto. But we'll see. I mean, he stopped campaigning for a rematch against Floyd, which really lets you know how he really felt about what happened that night. So it's going to be Berto. And you know what? I like Berto.
As Floyd watches this fight Saturday night, what's his thinking process? What do you think? Does he care who wins this fight? Is he scouting anything specific? What do you think is going to his mind as this fight develops Saturday night?
Initially, he's thinking, I can kick both guys' asses. I already handled Marquez, and if Marquez even comes close to Pacquiao, he's thinking to himself, how could anyone even say that this guy can get close to me? The way I handle Marquez and the way that Marquez is handling this guy, how could you even disrespect my skills and suggest that this guy that I destroyed, that is handling the so-called pound-for-pound best in the world, how could you even suggest that this guy is even in my same class? So that's what I think he's thinking. I think that he backs off the drug testing. He says, just get Pacquiao in that ring and I'll take care of him. And that's exactly what he's going to do.
Does he want Pacquiao to win this fight?
Sure, why not? Floyd's about money. Money Mayweather. Why not? Why not make $120 million?
The reason why I would say he may not want to is from the standpoint I think he would laugh if he lost this fight. This guy that supposedly is better than him loses
Floyd
the
is
fight.
about money. So he can fight Marquez again, right? Marquez wins.
Right.
He can fight Marquez again and make the $20, $30, $40 million that he makes. Or he can fight Pacquiao, beat Pacquiao, and make $100 million. Which would you want? Would you want the 20 or the 30, or would you want the 100? Because the 100, if he never wanted to fight again, he would never have to fight again, and no one could say anything more about him running or ducking or dodging or anything like that. He would shut everyone up and collect a payday that's just, it's so sweet that you really can't turn it down.
Let's go back to a month. The last big boxing pay-per-view had controversy. Bernard Hopkins, who you and I are both big fans of, bit of a mess there, how that fight ended with, I believe it was Chad Dawson?
Chad Dawson.
Explain what happened there and your thoughts on that whole theatrics there where Hopkins ended up, the decision was lost, he appealed, it's just a big mess.
We can sum it up like this. Dana White and the UFC got the biggest piece of free advertising that you could ever get, because that was just an indictment on boxing.
Right.
And it pushed so many more people towards MMA, because Dana White would never let anything like that happen. Okay, it was another black eye on the sport of boxing. It was a big fight that shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. It should have been a regular HBO fight. So you had a lot of people that did pay for that fight. It wasn't tremendous, but it was, significant amount of people that paid the $50 for the fight that felt like, we got robbed. So just a billboard for mixed martial arts. Just a billboard. And it did boxing a disservice. The ref screwed up. Chad screwed up. And, Bernard, unfortunately, gets caught in a situation where when he's really hurt, things that he's done in the past work against him. The guy hurt his shoulder, but, against Calzaghe, he used the, so-called low blows to buy himself a little bit more time. So now he's the man that cried wolf when he's really hurt. So it's just an unfortunate situation. I'm glad that they did overturn the decision to give him back his title, but then they're not going to fight again. So what does anyone...
Why not? What's the story there?
Well, Chad said some things afterwards about Bernard and the age, and just, he wasn't interested in the rematch. He wanted to go straight back to Pascal. So then Bernard said, well, if he doesn't want to fight me, the hell with him. And you get to a point where it's just, why wouldn't you guys get in there and fight again? And, Chad can't use Bernard's age as an excuse. Bernard was 46 when he fought him this time. What's being 47? He's been beating people at this old age, so that's not an excuse. So, just again, bad for the sport of boxing. Chad's going to fight Pascal. Who knows what's going to happen with that fight? But even if these guys fight again and Chad wins, it's only these two guys to fight. They're the only light heavyweights to have any appeal. Tarver's a cruiserweight, and he's old. Chad's not going to fight anyone at a catchweight. It's just bad for boxing. He should fight Bernard again. If Bernard's a 47-year-old man and he's easy work, go ahead and work him over easy and then go to Pascal. Pascal's not going anywhere. He's a young lion. They can get 2 more fights in. But that light heavyweight division is bad. Who knows what Bernard does next, but it's just a really bad situation that they put themselves in. That was a circus.
What should the refs have done differently, or what should Chad Dawson have done differently in that fight?
Well, Chad, keep you cool. Because if you expect Bernard to do dirty things, to push your head down, you got to prepare for it. It's a chess game, and Bernard's going to do things that make you lose your cool and fight his fight. The ref, that's a foul.
Right. Why was it?
Because it was not there was no boxing intent. He leveled him for the most part. Now, whether you can't judge intent, who knows what he meant to do? But the fact of the matter is, you can't call a technical knockout in the fight where a fight does not end on a boxing move. There was no punch thrown, nothing. It was a slam. That should have been called a no contest.
I agree.
It should have been called, no question, it should have been called a no contest. And he didn't let Bernard know that, look, if you don't get up, I'm going to award this guy the belt, the title, by technical knockout. Now, Bernard, there's no reason for Bernard to get up. He couldn't fight. Now, he's fought Antoine Eccles with one arm, okay? Now, I don't think you go in there and you fight Chad Dawson with one arm, but still, in his career, he has proven that he will go out there and do that. I don't think that you do that against this guy. Still in all, you give the guy the option, so at least he knows if he doesn't get up, that he's going to lose his title. And the ref really mishandled everything. It's good that the WBC gave Bernard back the title, but still, a mandatory rematch should be ordered between these two, and it should be immediately. The problem is that Bernard's going to have to rehab that shoulder, and that can take anywhere from 4 to 5 months. And like Chad said, he will be older, and maybe you lose your interest in the fight. But it was handled so poorly by the referee.
Is that the worst you've ever seen?
Terry,
a lot of people were outraged. I remember a lot of people were outraged.
I can't remember the fighter's name, but it was a fighter that Terry Norris fought in the 80s, and this guy was faking his way out of fights. And they fought 3 times. And the first 2 times, this guy faked his way out of fights. He kept his title, and finally Terry got him the 3rd time. So that was the worst I'd ever seen. I can't think of the fighter's name. I apologize for that, but I know Terry was furious that this guy kept weaseling his way out of fights.
So it's been a long time then.
Yeah, that was bad. It was a bad decision. And again, for a pay-per-view fight, somebody should have stepped in there and said, look, man, you sure you want to do this? And it didn't happen. I remember watching Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield when Tyson bit Holyfield's ears
96,
before they stopped the fight. Someone came over and they asked they asked Mills Lane, you really want to stop this fight? And Mills said, okay, I'm going to take 2 points. Okay, 2 points. And then Tyson went and he bit him again. Then Mills said, look, I got to stop it. But they went over to him and said, look, this is a big fight. You sure you want to stop this thing? And Mills said, okay, 2 points. I'm not going to stop at 2 points. But then Mike bit Holyfield again, and that was it. So this was pretty bad. But, the ref's at fault. Chad had an emotional decision. And, again, you can't call him dirty because I don't know what his intent was. His intent, obviously was to get Bernard off him, but I don't think his intent was to throw Bernard over and for Bernard to hurt his shoulder. But I think that Chad is better than walking out of the ring with a title that he didn't win on a boxing move. And I think he's better than not fighting Bernard again. And I'm a little disappointed. This is a guy that's worked with my nephew personally on his boxing. So I have a lot of respect for Chad, and I like Chad.
Is this a stain on him?
No, he'll get over it because, it's a stain on the referee. But he's better than not fighting Bernard again, and he's better than leaving that ring with the title.
If Chad does not fight Hopkins, what's next for Bernard?
Lucian Bute. That's what I think got to catch weight. Lucian Bute. First, he's got to rehab that shoulder, but Lucian Bute, and I think that's it. There's no one else for him to fight. I think he'll hang it up.
Of course, that's Jarrod Rudolph from Real GM, our boxing guru here on ESPN 1080 team as we preview the Pacquiao-Marquez fight. Before we get into the keys of that fight, of course, the sad news in the sport, boxing, Joe Frazier, a legend, passed away, battling cancer. Just your thoughts on Joe Frazier.
Great heavyweight champion, tough guy. I never had the opportunity to meet Smoking Joe personally, but you hear people in Philadelphia speak about Joe with such respect, and this guy fought wars, and I mean he's old school boxing. I mean he went in there, he fought everyone he was supposed to fight, and he fought wars, and he never made any excuses when he lost. He lost like a man, he won like a man, and just someone that you truly respect the craft and just the way he handled himself inside and outside the ring. I'm just pure class personified, Smoking Joe, and it's a terrible loss for the sport of boxing, but I really can appreciate the way that everyone has come and and offered their condolences, and I'm sure that they'll honor him at the Pacquiao fight. But Smoking Joe was a great one.
Where do you rank him all time? I mean, his fights, 2 losses to Ali, had 2 losses to Foreman, but where do you rank him?
All time in terms of all boxers or heavyweights?
Start with heavyweights. Let's start heavyweights, and then maybe we'll go all around. But heavyweights.
I say heavyweights. He's somewhere in the top 12, top 15. Boxers, top 30. It's a lot of great boxers out there. But heavyweight, I say Smoking Joe is maybe even top 10. Smoking Joe. It's hard because it's hard to rank him because of the different eras, and boxing transcends fairly well outside of the weight. It's a lot bigger now, but Smoking Joe, I say no more than 9, no less than 15.
All time in the
heavyweights.
Heavyweights.
In terms of overall boxers, no higher than 30, no lower than 40.
Was he a victim of the era? Because there was a lot of great fighters during his era. Would he dominate, for example, this era? Any other eras? Do you think it's...
He wouldn't dominate this era because, you know, the way Smoking Joe... I mean, first, the Klitschko's are big, and heavyweights are just naturally bigger now. And Smoking Joe, you know, he would have to do so much work to get in there, to get his shots off, and to land that beautiful left hook that he had. It's just, you know, I think that Smoking Joe in the 80s, he does well. I think Smoking Joe in the early 90s, he does well. In the 70s, obviously, he did well. So, but now, because of the difference in the size, it's almost like it should be another division, super heavyweights, to separate these 6'5", 260-pound guys from Smoking Joe that fought around, you know, 200 pounds. So, no, I don't think he was a victim of his era, and I think that he would be a great fighter, but I don't like him as a heavyweight in this era just because of the difference in size.
Bigger athletes.
Yeah, but cruiserweight, light heavyweight, if he could do something like that, then yeah, I mean, as a cruiserweight, he'd clean up. As a light heavyweight, it's no question. So I don't think you can question his heart and his skill, but just the size difference. You know, I don't think he was, you know, a great inside fighter, as great as a Mike Tyson. And I think even Tyson in his prime, though I think he would win, I don't think he would dominate the way that he did. But you never know. You know, some guys just have something a little bit different inside of them that, you know, they can overcome the size. And Smoking Joe, you know, he was able to do that, but then you have to go back to the two fights before him when the size difference was there, and Foreman just demolished him. So, you know, I don't like him up against the size, but, you know, Smoking Joe was Smoking Joe. I don't even think that matters. I think he's
Do you have a favorite fight that you maybe have watched over the years?
Thrilling Manila.
By far, no question,
right? Yeah, Thrilling Manila. And, you know, and the fight of the century, of course, was a great one. But, man, the Thrilling Manila, that was a hell of a fight. I mean, even you can go watch that fight now. I mean, just
still exciting.
The brutality and the beauty and the science. I mean, everything there. It just was an absolute classic. I think it's the best fight of all time. Never seen anything like it before. Never seen anything like it again.
Will we ever see anything close to that?
No. Those two men almost killed each other. No, absolutely not.
It's one of the reasons why I went from 15 rounds to 12.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, just and you know, Smoking Joe, he was beat, and he would have went back out there for 15.
Yeah, it was a tremendous fight and a tremendous loss, but a great legend in Joe Frazier. Let's get to this Saturday night fight. First question. Of course, UFC's got a free event on Fox. Velasquez versus Dos Santos. Will that affect the pay-per-view buys for this Pacquiao fight at all?
No, because they'll put that fight on before Pacquiao and Marquez ever step foot in the ring. That fight will start around 10:30, you know, maybe even 10 o'clock. It'll end at 11 o'clock, and Dana White will be one of millions of fans watching the Manny Pacquiao fight. He knows what he's doing. He's very smart. They'll eat him up in the prelims, and then when the main event comes, Dana will be watching with you and I.
Is there any prelim fights worth watching in the boxing card from your standpoint?
None that I can think of, but you know, good boxing is good boxing. If you get two guys in there going for it, you know, you never know.
So you think a lot of people would probably do like what I'm going to do, which is watch the UFC and then watch the Pacquiao fight?
Absolutely. You're paying the pay-per-view price to see Pacquiao-Marquez.
Right.
If the prelims are good, that's a bonus. Right? So, you know, and Dana White knows that. He's a smart guy.
All right, give me the keys to both guys. Start with Manny. What's the key for him to win this fight, and then what's Marquez's keys to win this fight?
Well, if he's a better fighter, like everyone says, you know, he has to find a way to minimize Marquez's counterpunching opportunities. That's what affected him in the first fight. He has to go in there. You know, he has to show that he can finish Marquez. I think that if you look, Pacquiao took a lot of punishment. I think he has to minimize the punishment that he takes, and he has to make Marquez uncomfortable. And I think that early in these fights, when he's getting these knockdowns, with the exception of the fourth knockdown in the second fight, I just think that Marquez turned into a great punch. You know, he has to make sure he continues to keep the pressure up. But it takes a lot out of Pacquiao to get at Marquez like that. Now, in terms of Marquez, he just has to make sure that he doesn't fall behind early. These are fights that he's falling behind early, and the second fight he has it if he doesn't get knocked down in a round and he's winning. You got to make sure you don't get careless. You got to make sure your footwork is right. I just think that you just go ahead, you take your time, and you pick Manny Pacquiao apart. That's exactly what I think that he'll do. The only way he loses this fight is if he is shot, if he is, you know, if the age has caught up with him. Because I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is this fighter that everyone says he is. He's certainly not.
Right, you have not been the biggest supporter of Manny Pacquiao.
He's handled his business, and you can't take that away from him. But when everyone keeps talking about he's this different fighter, and I see him fighting the same fights the same
Does
style.
anything? Can he do anything this Saturday night to change your mind, or is it?
Show me a little bit of defense. Show me
Okay.
that you can minimize someone's counter punches, because that's who he struggles against. He struggles against guys that can pick him off and defend. And Marquez has done a great job of getting in there and landing some solid counter punches. So you want to show me that you're ready for Floyd Mayweather? Show me that you can make Marquez miss and catch him, and you can minimize those counter punch opportunities. Show me that you can make him miss off the jab, and it's so easy to set stuff up against Pacquiao for these guys. And show me that you can do something other than go in and throw combinations from different angles and use your speed, which slows down when you're fighting against a guy like Marquez. And then I'll give him a little bit more credit. And I think that he can beat a lot of fighters out there, but just when you're talking about him beating a guy like Floyd Mayweather Jr., I think it's absurd.
And then for Marquez,
this is Marquez. Just counterpunch. Don't fall behind. You can't fall behind. You have to make sure that Marquez is winning most of the rounds in these fights, but the knockouts are killing him. And I think he got a bad decision in the second fight. You got to make sure that you don't fall behind. You can't fall behind 3 knockdowns. You can't let a knockdown happen in the middle of a round that, now you get the momentum going to Pacquiao. I think he had Pacquiao beat. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's on the floor. So, you have to make sure that you don't fall behind. Don't get caught with anything crazy. And, if you fight Manny, you'll put some pressure on Manny, and Manny will come in there and take some chances that he's not comfortable taking. And then maybe you can take him out.
All right, moment of truth, Jarrod. Your pick.
I'm going with Marquez. Marquez by split decision.
He wins the decision, so you feel the judges call it?
No, I think I said split decision. Now.
Right.
Split decision. Again, I'm not gonna put that on these judges. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. But it is Vegas. It is boxing, and there's a very, very important fight. That happens in the result of this. So I'm going to say a split decision, but I think Marquez clearly wins the fight.
Wow. Bold upset. You heard it there first. Jarrod Rudolph picking Mr. Marquez to win the fight. I'm going to stick with Pacquiao in 11th rounds, but we'll see.
So you think Pacquiao's going to knock this guy out?
Oh, yeah. 11th round, wears him down. I do question Marquez's age as this fight goes longer, but we'll see. I think it will be a much closer fight than people think, though. I do agree with that. So, that fight, of course, will take place Saturday night, November 12th. ESPN 1080 Insider Show, which airs Sunday mornings, 10 to 11. We will have a recap of that fight. Jarrod will be back. He will join us for a segment on Sunday morning to recap the fight and see what's next after the result of that fight. So you want to keep it there. And then, Jarrod, where can the audience find you?
A Real GM, IC Places. We're working on some other things. So.
You're all over the place. Now, the most important one, I encourage people to do this because you're on Twitter, and I actually follow you during the fights because you add commentary, your thoughts during the fight on Twitter.
Yeah, depends on how good the fight is and how much I have to drink before the fight starts.
That's good. You're not going to tell them where they can find you on Twitter? You're going to keep telling
them? Oh, no, I'm sorry. At Mr. Rudolph at Twitter, I guess. I'm not too good
That's good. Just go to Twitter and type in Mr. Rudolph, and they should find you.
I'm the guy that looks like I'm eating a microphone in front of the ESPN sign.
It's all right. So you're on IC Places and on Real GM.
IC Places, Real GM, in various newspapers across the country. Hopefully we get this NBA thing settled so I can get back to work.
Exactly. We all hope for that, Jarrod. But in the meantime, we'll enjoy the fight on Saturday. We appreciate you for taking the time. That is Jarrod Rudolph. I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this brief preview of Manny Pacquiao and Marquez fight, which will take Saturday, November 12th. For everybody here at the ESPN 1080 studios, I'm Eric Lopez, and this has been an ESPN 1080 Insider Special on ESPN 1080, The Team.